mean a lot to me because I have friends that I think were more talented than me in old rosters and were part of the Silk Road at one point and stuff like that. It would definitely be for them.
To me, it means that we're the cream of the crop. Being to Ascension just means that we're the top talent in Tier 2. And being the top talent in Tier 2 means that we're going to be looked at for franchise. And I think that's important to me because I want to be in franchise at the end of the day.
It would mean a lot to me because I've been trying to play with the players that are on my team for a long time. And I think it's a great group of guys that are hungry to win. We have a strong passion for this game, and it would be a great morale boost for everyone to show that we can do this and compete at this level.
I mean, we already did it, so obviously it means a lot. We know what it takes to make it there. We know what it takes to win it once we get to Ascension. So it would mean a lot for us, and I think it's an opportunity we won't drop again if we make it there.
To me, that I've almost like really made it, like completed the dream, because my dream is, you know, just to go play on stage in front of people I love, you know, like getting into VCT, that's what that would be. And so then the next goal would be qualify for the big tournaments and then keep going higher.
It means the world to me, honestly. Like we've been working pretty hard here at TSM, and for the last 2 years, I feel like I've deserved this opportunity to play, show what we're capable of, and qualifying would be the start of it. But yeah, it means the world to me, honestly. That's how I play for. I don't play for top 4, top 8, or whatever. I always try to aim to qualify.
It would definitely be a big step in my competitive career. Would definitely, you know, focus all of my time on this and not having to make money and live in the real world. So yeah, something along those lines.
I kind of want to just go live in LA. I don't want to be here anymore, like in this like storage room. But yeah, it'd be pretty cool to just go play on the stage. I want to play on the stage more than anything.
Dude, that'd be crazy. Dude, imagine my first year after waiting so long to already play, like qualify for Ascension, be able to live in LA paid for, and then compete in franchising. Like, that's insane, bro. Like, we got to make that happen, and that's why it's gonna happen. Yes, sir. Manifesting that. Yes, sir.
I mean, probably everything, right? We're gambling on this ride. So, I mean, I play every single day. It's, you know, it's like it's a normal job where you have to grind and, you know, you wake up every day, me and my team included, you know, and I'm sure every team that's playing in this, you know, puts their heart and soul into it, trying to qualify for that spot. So
winning Ascension, that would be like really good because we're just proving ourselves to be like by far the best. Get to play in franchise next year as a team. So,
you know, the whole goal is to make it to Ascension. And from there, we're going to try to make it to the league. So yeah, it means everything to us because obviously we need to be there and we need to get there to make it League One, and that's everything to us. So.
Two splits of Valorant have led up to this. 8 teams remain playing off inner playoffs to figure out which 2 are going to be moving on to the Ascension Tournament and one step closer to making it to VCT Americas. It's going to be a great day today, and I cannot wait to get started. I'm Sierra, and joining me on the desk, we have Roy and we have Lemon Kiwi Jen. I am so excited, guys, to get into today's matches. I'm inspired too after watching just VCT Americas in general. It's been so much fun. Yesterday's matches are amazing. Roy, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. That video kind of got me hyped up. I'm not going to lie. I love the confidence. I love the energy. I love the competitive spirit. And there's really no more slouches from here on out. So it's all going to be pretty good competition.
I'm really excited too. Playoffs begins. There's so much on the line, and there's a lot of rematches happening, and we heard from the players just how much it means to them, because not only could they reach Ascension, but it's also to prove all the work that they've done thus far.
100%. And talking a little bit about the splits and the standings we've gotten, because of course we couldn't include every single team here going on into our finals tournament. Of course, we're looking for the best of the best to be moving on, but this last split, I mean, Roy, it was crazy. Week after week, you never really knew what to expect. This kind of ends up in a spot where maybe it was a little bit more typical. Oxygen and Dark Zero at the top of their respective groups, but it was craziness to get to this point.
No, absolutely. I mean, you can just tell that there's so much character development happening within these teams as well. Like, you know, there was a lot of changes going on in stage 2, and there's like so many things there's so many moving pieces, but towards the end, it was kind of sort of settling down. We were starting to get a pretty clear image of like what teams were dominant, how, you know, what their map pool looked like, like what the chemistry looked like among players. It was really nice to see.
And it's just some really nice surprises, like Blinn coming from that relegation promotion tournament and now being in the second position, along with YFP and a lot of teams that have grown in a positive way, that have improved and have even surpassed teams like Moist Shopify, who were just touted to be like a team to watch out for when Challengers first began. So this really is a race to the top, and who is quicker to improve than others.
I definitely hope we've gotten to the point where we've gotten to see a really good version of the teams, that we've gotten to see a lot of that improvement already happen, and only see the best going on forward. Because bringing up the bracket that we have here for our finals, it's going to be tough competition from here on out. You don't want to be falling at that kind of that final hurdle here, Roy. Of course, we only have 8 teams that could be competing here, but it'll be a really, really exciting. We're looking too at that lower half, that Oxygen, Stat, M80, TSM to be kicking off our day. But all these matches should be great.
Yeah, I mean, like I was kind of mentioning that earlier. Like, really, the level of competition now is extremely tight. Like, yeah, there is like some slight underdog narratives, but at the end of the day, whichever team is the most prepped, whichever team is the most confident, whoever shows up that day is really going to make an impact. Anyone can beat anyone. Really, there really is no guarantee, and nothing is free from here, to be honest.
It really isn't. Of course, we do have that lower bracket, so it's not one loss and you're out, but still want to make sure that when you're this close to the Ascension Tournament, you can really give it your absolute all. And coming back to us, playoffs should be really exciting as well for a different reason, because of course, there was a couple of changes when we're looking at this current iteration of Valorant, and we have a map pool swap going into this. So I'm curious how this is going to be switching things up, considering it is Abyss coming in for a Split, and Split wasn't necessarily the most played, and I don't know how often teams are going to take us to Abyss, but I think the first one too, I mean, could really put up a show. If people have been practicing, this could be a sleeper map.
Yeah, I feel like if you're in this tournament right now, you don't really want to be permabanning Abyss, right? Because then you'd have a sort of veto disadvantage, having teams have that over your head the entire time. So I feel like if you know, especially for like teams like VCT Esports, for example, like you definitely want to have Abyss in the pool. It's a new map. It's fresh. There really isn't a set defined way to play the map yet. So there's a lot of room for creativity. And that's probably going to be like a spot where teams can get some of the edge.
And there is footage on Abyss in VCT, so that you can always, you know, not have to do too much thinking, and at least run the compositions that you're seeing in VCT, run the rotations there if you wanted to really try taking that risk. There is a lower bracket, so you could try to pull out Abyss to, like me and Roy were talking about, to maybe cheese some people who haven't really practiced this map. But yeah, do you veto it, or do you just kind of let it be up to fate? I think a lot of teams have to focus on the weaknesses that they currently have on the maps that have happened over the season, and not try to go for something new quite yet. But we'll see what we end up with today.
I'd be worried about if a team has Abyss as something they really want to go to, that someone else is just going to take that stage of permabanning it. But I'd be excited to see it. No, I'm not so much about playing it, but that aside, I'm excited to see if it's into our first series today, which is going to be M80 and TSM. But first, we have a little matchup video to get you all ready.
M80 and TSM have faced off twice in the past, with M80 coming out on top both times. While M80 did take a slight dip in performance while they adjusted to the addition of Net, they seem to have found their groove and have rattled off 4 straight wins against solid competition. With the talent and experience that M80 has, we already know to expect a high level of play from them in the playoffs.
Usually bringing on a new player is takes a lot of time, you know, you gotta kind of work out the kinks, but like with Net, we kind of already know how he wants to play, and it was just about getting him acclimated in our system, and the overall success we found has been because of the system changes and just how easy it's been to kind of mesh with each other.
For TSM, this is about finally breaking through that ceiling as a mid-table team who can compete with the top dogs, but never quite topple them.
And yeah, I think we improved a lot against better teams, and I'm proud of that. Like, I think our macros got better. I think our game plans have been better too. So yeah, you should see the improvement, which is good. You know, it doesn't feel like we're randomly beating these teams or randomly competing.
The talent and experience is certainly there for TSM, but matching up against M80 would be a strong test for any team in Challengers. This series could certainly go all 3 maps, and an upset is definitely not out of the realm of possibility.
All right, a little bit to be breaking down there from that video. And first, let's talk about this M80 squad. Because M80, when we're looking back at this team, they're a team that they definitely have the capabilities there. They have this core roster, but going into this year, Jen, they got a couple of changes, and at that final mark, then bringing in Net. And I was kind of worried when we got to see this change, but it's kind of clicking. I'm kind of vibing with it.
It all makes sense how they just needed to get Net acclimated. They dropped their first 2 matches and are now on a 4-match win streak. Like, yeah, they'll go to a third deciding map against like a YFP or a Fluffy Aimers, but they are still the team to beat in this bracket. And I don't think it's extremely one-sided because, like GMD said in the video, TSM have made serious improvements, but M80 are such a well-rounded roster now that Net seems very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, okay, to be fair, I have been taking part in this like M80 criticism because we have such high expectations for such a good team, right? But realistically, ever since they've added Net, they've only really lost their first match against Blinn. Since then, it's pretty much been lights out.
Yeah, it's been really, really, really nice to see. And WallowNoob actually tweeted out a little bit about the team too, because when I was looking at M80 and kind of comparing them to last year's performance, kind of felt like there was something a little bit missing. And bringing up the tweet, he was talking about, this was after their win up against MXS, by the way, talking about teams looking almost vintage form again. This is, I think, the perfect time if the team is feeling like this is the form. Roy, I want to know, do you think that they're hitting that vintage form? Is this cope? Like, what's going on with M80? I'm here for it.
I'm not sure how much of that is cope, to be honest, but I think I kind of see what Koala's saying, to be honest. They have been playing extremely well. It does feel like they are kind of leveling up in their own way. And you know what they kind of remind me of? This is going to sound weird because, I mean, Net was on that team, but they kind of remind me of like the VCL G2, where like they don't really need a star player anymore. Like they don't need Koala to be popping off constantly because they have players that can, every single one of their players can take over a game. Like even their IGL Xander, right? Like he paid a pretty heavy IGL tax in the beginning, but now it seems like he's sort of finding his groove. Like BCJ can pop off, Xander can pop off, Nismo, Koala, Net, like anyone can take over games. So they don't really need anyone overcompensating.
Which is nice to see. I feel like it's nice when you can see somebody kind of step up for the squad, but you can't quite be reliant on that. I think M80, where they have shined, is the capability that anyone can be standing up. You get to see like these 1v2 clutches. I always think back to Lotus moments where I see someone from M80 doing absolutely something disrespectful they shouldn't be, being able to get these multi-kills, be clutching up rounds. And it's really nice to see even Nismo there just popping off with those kills.
Beautiful.
It's so good. It's so good. When this team's looking good, you can definitely think of why this team has what it takes and why we really could see them play again in Ascension. Since we were talking about WallowNoob, wanted to take a moment here to kind of talk a little bit more about him, Jen, because of course we can see anyone from the team pop up, but I feel like as of late, WallowNoob has really just brought some skill to the table.
Absolutely. WallowNoob is such a fantastic duelist, and he has the potential to pull a lot of weight in these big matches. And I agree with Roy that when it comes to M80, their recent matches, there isn't that person who's dropping like 25 kills and everyone else is kind of just supporting. This is like a cogs in a machine, but hearing that M80 feel like they're in their peak form. Here we go. Let's go Ascension. Tells me they exude confidence, which Koala needs that to really perform.
I think as a team, M80, when they have that confidence, they kind of just seem unstoppable. So I am excited if this is a team that feels like they're back in vintage form of what they're going to bring out for the table today. And I think TSM might have to watch out. Talking about this team, whoever did the voiceover for that video was exactly right. TSM, this is a squad that has the talent. They have the players. But looking back at the performances we've gotten to see in Challengers so far, Roy, it kind of seems like there's something in the equation not quite adding up.
Yeah, I feel like some of their X factor has sort of been missing. I'm not even sure if X factor is the right word, but there is, I know what you mean. Like there is some kind of like oomph that's missing with this team. But I think I kind of agree with GMD. Like they at least have always looked like they're improving. Their calling system is improving. The way they're playing off each other is improving. Even like Seven is settling into his like initiator role that he's never really played before. So I think TSM's on the up.
I like the improvements that did come out of TSM. They're not at least recently, haven't beaten the top teams, but this rematch between TSM and M80 will prove to us, will shut up the haters, is TSM better than M80, which sounds straightforward, but M80 beat them last time in the mid-season cup, and TSM still have a lot of doubts surrounding them. There's some weak points, some weak maps, but we're entering a Neon meta, which I feel like really suits Sim and allows him to be that excellent duelist, that kind of on the opposite spectrum of M80. TSM, I feel like, have a hard carry person in Sim who can really just blow up a whole map. He is so incredible, and this Neon allows him to have that solo playmaking ability and that aggressive style he wants to do.
I mean, when I'm looking back at TSM and kind of talking back a little bit about that match history, it's a team that definitely can be taking the wins, but when they go up against one of those teams that we've considered kind of top of challengers, that's when the struggles have kind of been. I mean, those are the top challenger teams for a reason, Roy, but when we have TSM in the conversation, talking about the players, I feel like they should be right along there. So I think going into today, it's a really big opportunity to show that their name should be right along everyone else in that conversation.
Absolutely. This team cannot be underestimated by any means, right? Like, they have players that have competed at a very high level for a very long time, despite their age. Like, this is not a team you can just be like, oh, you know, this is a guaranteed win. Let's slack on this matchup. Let's not do our prep. Like, no, like, everyone here really wants it. They all want to succeed. You saw it in the hype video. And I genuinely do believe when they say that it's not just for promo material. Like, they really want this, and they're going to be putting their all into it.
And it's a team that's fairly mentally composed. Like, they are humble enough to realize their problems and to work on those things. But also, the last time I saw TSM was when they had that big beef match against YFP where Jake or something was like talking smack, and then TSM ended up winning. So it's like, you can't even talk smack or try to play anything else but Valorant when it comes to TSM, and they'll maybe even still beat you at it. So that's why I think this is not a one-sided match.
Maybe M80 needed to do a little bit like of trash talking beforehand for TSM to really be unlocked going on into this. But I mean, I feel like it'd be a little warranted. Going back on the history of these two teams, every single time these two teams have met up, it has been M80 to be taking the win here. And I think that's going to be quite interesting going into things. Like, it is a little bit of kind of a... what's the right word to put it? Things have changed a lot, Roy. I think is the best way. But even in the history, even looking back at last year, I feel like it's kind of been like a little bit of a curse. So I'm curious if we can maybe get that broken today.
Yeah, I mean, okay, to be fair, TSM has sort of played hot potato with the IGL role, like passing it to boys, back to GMD. They're kind of like shifting it around. But I think now it seems like it's been pretty much settled. So I think TSM... There's a world where they break the curse, but it's I mean, if we're going off patterns, it's not looking favorable. But I do believe that, you know, patterns can be broken. So I think it's really hard to say right now.
Yeah, and we were all talking about how in the mid-season cup, TSM could have beaten M80 because it was 2-1, and that first map was like 18-16 or like super extended overtime. Yeah, like that could have been a TSM win.
Yep, that could have been a 2-0 actually.
Yeah, so that being said, this could be a really, really different match today, which definitely has me excited for what is to come. But talking about here, this was the last time they met up, the most recently, but looking back at this, it's definitely a little bit of a different time of Val, so it really, really, I think, hits home on how close across the board this was. So you can't just take a 2-1 victory at that face value, Roy. We could see a very different game today.
100%. Like, don't be fooled by Twitch chat and Reddit. Like, these matches, like the gap between these teams is incredibly tiny. At any point in time, if people are feeling confident, if there's a flow within the team, if the IGL system is kicking in and everyone's kind of feeling themselves, like, it is so easy to take over matches. And like these players, it's very easy to be fooled because when you look at their pictures, they look really young, but they've been competing for years at this point, non-stop, right? Like, these are the future players. These are the people that will be taking over VCT over the next year or 2 years, you know? So it's...
100%. I think I know. Okay, we're good. Okay. I was like, I can't disappear right now. No internet issues here. I want to start talking a little bit more about the series we're about to see and start heading into our map picks and bans. Of course, again, a reminder, Split is out, Abyss is in. Still think it'll be really interesting. The very first team that decides to take us there, though I think for two teams that have quite a lot of tape for what they like to see, I don't necessarily think off the bat, Lemon, there's going to be too many surprises. I mean, M80 for certain. They're a team that don't really like to deviate from kind of what they know, that's standard, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, like TSM have weaknesses, and I think M80 have done their homework. Once we show maps, it'll be we'll be able to talk more about that. But even in the mid-season cup, you realize kind of these really flip-floppy, one-sided score lines. It really depends on what map we are going to. So the first. Okay, we have this whole new animation now. This is really cool compared to the regular season. But okay, kind of threw me off there. I was like, okay, drum roll. But it's a Lotus being TSM's pick. They played this recently against YFP and won. But this is also a map they lost to M80. So we'll see what's different now.
Yeah, I mean, Icebox is a little worrying. I'm not gonna lie, this Icebox is a little worrying because M80 loves Icebox, and they've only looked better ever since they got net on that map. So I feel like TSM really needs that first map if they want a really good shot at this. And I mean, Haven's a curveball as well.
Yeah, TSM have at least tried to make some adjustments, knowing that Icebox is a serious pain point for them. They've only won it once in the last 5 times, while as M80 is an M80 pick, and it's also by far their best map. TSM are incorporating more Reyna for Sim. Again, kind of a lot of Neon, a lot of Reyna for this guy. Solo playmaking can really be aggressive and fast, but he can be very hot and cold, at least on the Reyna that we saw the last 2 times. And this could help fix. They've really tried to fix their site control problems on Icebox with either, the Reyna, the Harbor, the Sage. They've changed their comp a lot for this map, so we'll see if this one's the right one.
It's been a smidge of time too, so with changes as well and being able to kind of pick apart and see what works, I'm curious with how this is going to be. I do think overall that this map will just in general, when I'm seeing the Lotus and I'm seeing the Icebox, it kind of feels like M80 just got 2 picks into this, Roy. So I am a little bit worried for TSM in that regard. But I think they have had a little bit of time to do their homework. And again, a team that has that skill to take them there. So it'll just be how they decide to show up today.
Absolutely. I mean, Lotus is going to be a very close game. I think both teams are very proficient on that map. And not only that, but they are extremely versatile in the way they play it. Like, they can play it at any pace. They have so many different defaults and spreads that they can kind of run. So, I mean, and Icebox is just like a util dump map at this point as well.
But it's a whole new look for TSM too, because they're going for more Neon Gecko instead of Fade Viper, where M80 is still utilizing the Fade, scan info potential. But TSM, I feel like they're really letting loose on this map. There's less delay potential, which might hurt their defense, but this is going to be all about being rotation heavy and aggressive and how you can set up Sim for success.
I mean, I'm looking at kind of the Neon and other teams to be playing it, but when I think back to M80, I just feel like they just got such solid fundamentals across the board that even if they're not necessarily changing to one of those type of duelists that likes to pop off in the moment, like Neon after these changes, I still feel like they just looked so good with the current iterations that they got and can always just kind of go back to those fundamentals, which has really, really served them well. I think, too, when we're looking at this Lotus, that this could be one that could be close between the teams. I think there has been kind of a recent little stumble for both of them. But there's has been time here then, Roy, to kind of fix them up and be able to see what they have coming to the table today.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think the last time that M80 played Lotus was June 19th, so about a month ago. So there's been plenty of times for them to revamp. And M80 is the type of team that will do like random things. Like, they'll pull out Yoru on maps we've never really seen Yoru being run that often. Like, they are the type of team that will be like, okay, we really like our identity on this map. We're down to create a new identity for ourselves on these maps and kind of like steer away a little bit from the meta. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some like sort of curveballs from either team, but more so like M80's side.
I mean, even just thinking back to M80 on Lotus, I feel like this is a map that I always look at. They'll always be down at some point, and then this is where we get to see crazy clutches coming out from the players. So then M80 winning a Lotus that maybe I wouldn't necessarily expect them to, but I don't know. It's exciting stuff. Our agent select, Zippo agent select, is ready as well. So time to hop into this, see what our series today is going to be delivering us. If we get to see any of those swap ups or what identity we're going for today. All right, M80s. Okay, man.
I'm sorry, they're running okay, double Sentinel is already wild, but triple Sentinels?
Let them cook. I say let them cook.
They're cooking.
Wow.
Oh, good thing they're starting on defense. This is going to be impossible.
Yeah, they have so much utility. Oh my god.
Wow. All right. Just leaving all of us speechless from the get-go. I mean, if anything, I'd expect one change or two, maybe adopt the Steadlock, something else, but wow. All right. If I'm TSM here, like, Roy, what are you even thinking at this point? Because I don't think anyone could have expected this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to bet my career on it that they have not gotten practice against a triple sentinel comp since this map's come out. So I'm not even sure how they're going to approach it, but I imagine they're probably going to try to get out some of that early utility or figure out where the Cypher and Deadlock like to set up their utility and play around that, whether it's like use the breach to aftershock or whether it's like try to overrun the other side of the map. Like, I'm not sure, but it had to be somewhere within that line, to be honest.
I cannot wait to see what this M80 defense, this triple senti, has got for us. So we're not going to delay this one any longer. It's time for our first match here, the first map of our playoffs, and time to head over to Uber and Gompers to take us through.
Thank you very much, Sierra. My goodness. Yeah, triple sentinel composition straight out of the gates here for M80. We know Gompers, they're quite happy to go without duelists on occasion. I think of maps like Icebox, for example. This, though, is a bit extreme.
I agree. I don't know. I'm kind of interested in the map selection too with like Lotus. I don't think M80 have ever lost against TSM on a Lotus map. They've played against them in stage 1. They've played against them mid-season cup. Obviously, we've seen how that has worked out. It was a bit of a hard run, but I'm looking for a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the past, obviously, we've seen TSM move over towards this Gecko-based composition that has, Sim in a position to create that space on Neon. But what we're looking for, and what generally we're looking for Neon players, and this is, to quote Corey, basically, is that he wants to do more than just create space and get traded. That is obviously something that, Neon often gets hedged into that corner because you do have, a lot of those duelists that are able to hit the sites with a lot of that mobility and break that crosshair placement, Now Neon obviously able to do that to a greater degree with greater accuracy during that slide. So we're going to see Sim on the Neon here. The triple sentinel composition, though, going to be very interesting in terms of how they can get information about contested parts of the map that is going to be challenging for M80, especially on that attacking side.
For M80 too, I mean, the thing I've seen is Xander has been such a huge detriment to the team of TSM. He's been so good at keeping control of the site, so good at making sure that everyone on M80 is set up. So I'm interested to see how they're going to counter that this time around, especially now with a workup going towards 8. Nobody's there other than Koala Noob.
Koala Noob is paying off the Cypher util. So they do have the Cypher at a different site, and it has gone towards B. So there'll be 2 trips and a cam. That can be played off of by Koala Noob, and that's going to be what precipitates the wall being thrown up. Now, it looks like it might have been broken somewhat. At least a lot of early warning here that TSM are on the way in. And yep, Sims hit the site. There's trips, though, here and there that can catch him out. Relay bowl happens on the other side of the wall. And Nick gets in the drop instantly. It's BCJ with boots on the ground. M80 are able to respond to this now. Find themselves in a 3 versus 3, but Nismo still on the rotate. Xander decides to go for it either way. Wow. The right clicks interrupt the players around the spike. And now it's just poised in a 1 versus 2. Who'll have to try and find a way out. This is time being bought. Xander able to double up here with Nismo, but Poised is able to get that 1 versus 1. Doesn't opt to play off the flash. Will have to pull off the net though, and Nismo has to do something about this here. The barrier obviously is going to stop the shots coming in through the box. Poised runs out though, and doesn't realize Nismo had long since gotten off.
It's so interesting that, for that duration of time, I guess Nismo was more so waiting to peek the angle. I mean, I guess it makes sense at the end of the day, but that was huge. I mean, Xander with a ballsy play, just right-clicking it down to really make that opening. So for M80, this is a very, very good first initial start. Honestly, they did lose a lot, which did create that main area of concern. It could have been better play. I think the wall was a really good touch to it, though, on both ends here, especially having Nismo playing on that deadlock and Koala Noob playing on that stage. There's going to be a huge hold on the defense moving forward for sure.
And the most important part is knowing when to throw those walls up. You need a way to get information about what the attackers are doing. The Cypher camera was enough there for M80, at least for Koala Noob to play off that and get a wall thrown up at the right time when it was relevant in the round. Little prod here out of B by M80, but they do hear a lot of this action going on over at Mound, and Net's not really looking to challenge this. We might even just see TSM contact in here.
Why destroyed?
They're going to be able to receive it here, forced to back away. Dizzy's going to connect. Well, that's going to be a summed up 7. They can't do too much about Koala Noob there. Messy fight on the site. Kimon's been able to get a stinger to hand here. And Koala Noob will sit inside the dark cover, has heard that weapon be exchanged. So we'll take their time to heal up a little bit now. 3v2.
1 enemy remaining.
Yeah, they know that there's a rotation coming. I mean, Xander did catch off Poised, so it does stop them dead in their tracks.
Oh no.
he is able to get away. Hey, I'm all for the post plant 1v3. All right, I think it works a lot of the time where it's less stress, but at the same time, 30 health. You got Stingers and Bulldogs set across on the other side. So yeah, you're gonna have to be very, very stingy with the movement that you're gonna play here, especially for GMD.
M80 pinged it out, so they do have an inkling that Gimon has gone the long way around, and he's only got 30 HP, which is why he's probably very afraid about taking a challenge on such a wide angle. These are very, very tough to win. Gimon has to do something pretty unexpected, but Koala Noob is ready for it. Drops down with the Stinger, cleans up the Omen, and that'll be M80 taking the anti-eco.
Thank you. Yeah, easy round for takeaway, especially like M80, they just know their way around the map. They've talked about it on the desk originally, especially with like the new addition here coming through from net. Everything just starts to make sense. Everything starts to align itself. They got early information. They were able to play that with net, taking that first-hand pick, and then moving forward, it was just really an easy shot call from there. But yeah, it just gets harder and harder. Now we're finally actually going to be able to see what TSM have cooking for, you know, the Vandals set down. But impressive gameplay so far. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw, like, obviously M80, because of this composition, right, they do at least have a fade, so they are prioritizing to some degree, like, the ability to throw out an early corn. They are going to try and, you know, use Net's cam fairly passively here, but you'll notice they had to push out a fear at the start of last round, because they do need to go and get info via that mechanism. The comp doesn't allow them to really make these trap plays or aggressive pops over on the A side of the map, right? Like we see a lot of teams, they like have an Omen and they have like a Raze or Fade combo, right? They can tank shell in towards the attackers. This comp doesn't really allow for that. M80's setup actually gives up a lot of the map. And then in order to get information about, you know, those contested areas, they kind of have to swing for it. So some parts of the map, you'll see them just leave entirely, and then might maybe double up like they did that last round, push 2 people out of B, and at least get some info about that area of the map. It's quite hard to play this triple Sentinel composition well.
Yeah, waiting for the... Thank you guys for being patient, especially with the tech pause, but they're close. Ultimate-wise, too. I'm really intrigued to see, you know, how M80 are going to continue to play with that stage. It seems more so for the defense. It's just wall up. You know, more so giving them that extra sense of security to make sure that they're settled in. Double Sentinel. So
yeah, it's also really good, right, on like in the post plants when you're attacking. This is what we see in like the deadlock be used for a lot. It's like you get a safe plant on C and then you just throw a wall into waterfall. And all of a sudden, the defenders have to try and flank you via mound, which is extremely hard to do, or they just group up in halls and run into you and potentially run into your util. So it's crazy, right? And it's a bit of a misnomer, but I honestly think these like multi-sentinel compositions look even scarier on the attacking side, providing they can get a post plant.
All right, finally, we get to start things back up again. And now the difference being TSM finally having weapons to defend themselves when they are looking for that entry, when they're looking for something else, but a very, very quick slow already starting off to keep them back.
And again, none of that aggression. No one's moved up to rubble here. At most, it's Xander just rotating door. Doing fair does well against this buy. Already the Bulldogs found some value. Fault line is going to force him away, as TSM obviously have that much more standard comp that can punish his overextensions, especially with a lot of these util, the Dizzy or the Fault line, for example. And then again, there's info for M80 to play off. They say, okay, we get more over towards rubble, which seems a bit absurd, but it's given Koala Noob this weird little angle as they've refreshed the smoke over towards A. And TSM are still here.
Yeah, early paranoia playing with your util. It was ballsy, but it was a good move from Xander. I feel like that's all we're seeing from Xander, to be honest. It's just white swinging the group and seeing if they can get 1 or 2. It seems to work out. M80, yeah, just eliminating everyone off the board.
Yeah, this is obviously a situation that TSM are not used to. They realize now that the only way to get onto A is like to wrap all the way around rubble, which exposes them to both Tree and Baby Door, respectively. And again, it's this defensive util that can funnel your opponents in one particular direction. Now, TSM realized they're just priced into a save here. They went up against the bonus of M80, a bonus, by the way, that features a ghost, so it's not a particularly flush or rich bonus from the defenders, but yeah, TSM, no idea what to do to get out of that little snafu on A.
10 seconds left.
Yeah, they gotta save. Going more than, I'd say, like 3 rounds for M80 would definitely be a detriment for TSM, but I think it's gonna be hard regardless. Especially going into the early, I guess, the later stages, because they're playing for defense for M80. I don't really see any other cause, for such a solid double, I guess, double Sentinel, as well as, like, double Initiator title. Actually, my apologies. I believe, actually, it's triple Sent with the deadlock there. Yeah, triple Senti. So it's a solid hold for them that they're really looking for here. I think they're just wanting to close this out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely want to exacerbate the fact that they're starting on the defense side. But it's worth pointing out that, like, on this map in general, like, Lotus, with standard comps, can be really attacker favored because the defenders have to spread themselves so thinly across these 3 sites. But now with, like, 3 support agents worth of utility, you can see how that's been spread across the map, right? There's even a sonic sensor at C where I think Xander is sort of solo anchoring that site. B looks like a mess on the map, and then you've got, both the Cypher and the Sage over at A. So you've got better coverage than you otherwise would have. You don't have to, like, give up a site at all to try and hedge your bets. For example, like a lot of teams like to be passive on B and play more towards C and A. So it's quite effective.
As effective as this can be too. Already Xander's prepping up for a nice Nismo play. Yeah, wall goes up and it just completely denies that, which makes it so much harder. Yes, they've shot it down, but now, smoke goes down and everything else really just does not work out.
So obviously Xander has an opportunity to punish TSM as they're breaking that wall, but I think he hears multiple guns and realizes he could be swinging into what eventually would be a crossfire. But still, it's a ton of information, and also the round has been stalled out again. We're down to 35 seconds, but there's still a ton of Sentinel utility that has to be cleared on this B side. At least Sim is able to get in, embedded on B. There is still a trip on the side itself, and Wingman is going to work. BCJ chooses his spot perfectly, and even though the relay ball comes down, Net is there with the follow-up, and the judge claims to. Aproda was a long way from the action, and it's about to be revealed at that. And this will be yet another M80 round as TSM still struggling to get going on Lotus.
Looking for huge defusal and an M80 win. That just keeps honestly rolling with it. Now, though, TSM slight save, so they do have enough economy for the next round. So it's not like all has been lost. It's just difficult, right? Like, shut down so early on in the round going towards C. They have to go for a plan B. And the plan B doesn't work because now you're shut down on the B site with all this util that's just being thrown at you from Nismo. So all in all, it just gets incredibly difficult to get the post plan, even then to get onto the site. And once you finally have it, then stuff like that happens and you're wondering, well, what do I do now? But Sim pulling out with the operator on the defense as the Neon, which is interesting, but we're going to see how that works.
I like it a lot here from Sim because, again, this triple Sentinel composition has to contact a lot of the angles they want to play. They don't have flashes to push operator players off angles, but they do have smokes. And Xander is able to take care of Kimona 7 pretty comfortably there as they tried to fight for rubble. And so Sim doesn't see anything at the start of the round. There's always a smoke in his way, so the operator never gets any value.
Already quite difficult to try to gain some ground to retrieve that spike. Knowing that so many players are watching, the angle wall attempting to break itself, they finally just back themselves off. Not worth it. TSM, they have the up, they have the investment, so why bother?
Yeah, the spike is on the wrong side of that Sage wall, unfortunately. M80 just keep trapping TSM round after round here with these sort of late walls. They've now thrown a deadlock wall over into A, just to really make it clear that TSM had no business recovering a spike. And again, that doorway gets one way comfortably. They can sit up and play around this here. And again, TSM forced into a save against a composition like this, I think, where if your momentum gets stopped early in the round, it's probably not the investment trying to play into a short-handed scenario, like a numbers disadvantage, especially with an operator, when you have no information about the map. M80 here go looking, and you absolutely want to try and get this operator out of the hands of Sim. I don't even know if they heard it get fired, though. That's the thing. Not if they realize there is one in the hands of the Neon.
10 seconds left. Last player standing.
Get something out of this, but nah. Just looking for Sim at this point to really shut things down for TSM even further. I mean, the way things are going, I'm not going to lie, it's not looking good, but redemption, I believe in it.
Yeah, obviously, if TSM want to keep testing A in this fashion, obviously that's all well and good, but it's been quite hard for them to actually get out of A and get information about the map. They have to respect the Prowler that gets thrown at them by BCJ, and normally Xander just follows up with a one-way smoke over towards A. And so normally you do have to be patient or you challenge that one way by flashing yourself out of it, which obviously this team of TSM can do. They do have 3 flash agents, right? They have good tools for pushing players off these angles, which is kind of what M80 need to do a lot of the time. If they get forced off an angle, they have to just contact P midway through the round to try and get information on what their opponents are doing to make sure that that defensive util, right, like the walls, don't get used for no reason.
They could. It's so interesting too, because it's such a big shutdown for Sim. Like, okay, what are you going to do as a Neon if there's a wall there? And it's so counterproductive for TSM. So now, yeah, kind of like what you said, there really just has to be another way. I think there's no luring anyone out either. So it really is like, it's pedal to the metal sort of comp that really needs to arrive for TSM in order to make the site and work on that post plan. Because in my opinion, they have so many ultimates ready, they could use it, this could work. But how are you going to get there when, hey, Nismo, just set down the barrier and we'll be chill.
It's true. I mean, that is obviously one of the weaknesses here of Neon, is that she doesn't have any of that vertical mobility. So a wall genuinely stops her in her track. We're going to have C-Sim at least try and take some mound control. There's a player watching this angle, and Nismo just gets off of it there. Honestly, a pretty huge opportunity for the Deadlock player to find a player advantage. They look pretty well set up, but here comes that smoke. Sim just tests B here. He definitely wants to keep a couple of M80 at B, maybe force some util with a bit of a prod here. But I wouldn't be running headlong into this side. M80 are here in numbers.
Yeah.
There.
We are contacting operator into B main. It's so rough out there.
They're just waiting for the wall too. But that's good. The patience really does work out in the end. So Sim does run away with one.
And that might be enough for them here. For TSM to say, okay, we can now put some attention over towards B here. We're going to keep at least the fade most likely at B, and then it probably has to ping off the other extremity and check that A side. But they're being slowed up. And a barrier here as well is going to make this virtually impossible for TSM. Now they're going to ping back over towards B. The defenders have to be pretty light-footed here and respond with these rotations, but that smoke makes it impossible for TSM to play off a wingman whatsoever. Botline at least is going to pressure Xander down. The shot does miss though from Sim, as they at least get themselves a Vandal. Still no plant. Seven's trying to put it down now, but that's going to be Sim at least setting up a trade. That's Poise getting some value out of his stinger. And the Annihilation, I guess, is just going to be ignored. Wow. TSM were grouped up in upper. They actually couldn't do anything about the player caught in the deadlock ult.
It's not even that. I'm starting to interesting like a repeating trend, I guess, from TSM. They did use patience as like, I guess, sort of a counteractive to the wall. Break it down, leaves him there, make sure, okay, if something happens, you're able to take it. But, lack of util there on the re-entry, which is interesting because they had so much to utilize in that moment, which, you're in a position where you're going 6-0. I feel like you do everything in your power to make sure you can kind of run away with at least one round to start to derive M80 from that economy. But, of course, up in the hands of Koala Noob. Now, new game starts.
Notice no one-way here at all from M80 on that side of the map. They got their Roman over at A. So that allows TSM, especially with a missed shot from Koala Noob, to move in and take some control here. I like that fault line. That is, again, another tool that forces Koala Noob off the angle, forces that Sage to repost here, potentially at their peril.
They're so set up, too. They know that there is Rolling Thunder, so you can see them backing off, like actively trying not to be on site, leaving themselves a little bit more room to back away in case TSM want to use that from Poise. But it's so calculated, so well for M80 right now in this moment.
Net here is playing off the camera. That will spot these players as they move across this trip. It was more of an info trip because obviously, as you can see, it can be jumped over. And that will just play off this camera and not take any risks here. This comp doesn't really have the tools to fight for this sort of defensive map control at A. The TSM will be allowed to move up here, potentially through tree and onto the side. And note that M80 are still adamant about this C positioning. They have not moved.
30 seconds left.
Off your feet!
They could keep this going. Rolling Thunder finally settles itself down on A. And they have the site, but they've been waiting for that. M80, they know what has kind of been the plan for TSM originally. So now all they have to do is work on it.
Now, Rolling Thunder gets no value because M80 are playing off these sites. It was just Net playing off a cam. Now they're going to go for a retake. He's moves up, and the timing is pretty good, actually. Kimono's just a little sharper. Decent spray transfer there for Net, and BCJ finding 4 between the two of them. Still a 1 versus 1 and 7 though. Waiting by stairs. Finally, TSM get themselves on the board. But it's a hulking economy that M80 been able to put together.
They got finally around to kind of give themselves some leeway there. Moving forward, and all it took was the ultimate, right? But now they know, like, if they do apply that pressure, if they do have a lot of stuff coming through, it does threaten M80 back into a very uncomfortable position. So it's mostly just really solidifying, hey, we're going to keep running this down. You guys have to take a step back for a moment as those Sentinels, and you can't play your role, which I really think is the thing they have to instill into the minds of M80. But now, new round, new day, Sim ready to utilize at least their ultimate here and maybe try to get themselves in.
Again, Net playing passively off a camera. So once more, not looking to challenge any of that contested area. Not even holding an angle towards the top of mound from the seaside. Imon must have been sniffed out here because M80 have felt like they should be deploying that barrier. So nothing's going to be happening at A for the time being. That barrier stays up for quite a while, unless it is going to be removed. And elsewhere, we've got Poise starting to probe a little bit more at B. The hope is that he clears out some of that Cypher util, and maybe drag some rotators off these peripheral sites. Yep, he's getting in and actually smoked over towards Link here. This is going to pull people towards B, but TSM, with the amount of control they have now in upper, might opt to end here.
They have everything good. So M80 now trying to at least make some sort of progression. Xander with a 3K off the bat. So now, yeah, re-entry might be easier than before. But yeah, pretty much just finishing that off, which is impeccable.
I mean, again, what we see a lot of teams do when they hit this side is they throw it one way over towards Baby Door. Because they know there's usually 1 to 2 players that like to explode from that part of the map, but there is no smokes there from TSM. I think they throw one Link and then one into upper, which is already under control, I think, of Poised. He pushed up into upper there. You see the minimap. That's where the Omen smokes are at the top of B side. So Xena gets to do whatever he wants, and the paranoia not connecting obviously is a huge problem, but Omen just went to work on him.
They didn't have to worry about anything, honestly. Yeah, Xander pretty much just shut that one down. And this is Xander's map, to be fair. I don't think Xander's ever had a bad game on Lotus, so...
And Icebox is next, by the way, so...
Yeah, it just gets worse and worse at this point. But I believe TSM, they've had good moments, they've had good rounds. Sim is just running it down, and I guess that was the plan originally, right? Condition this team.
Yeah, I mean, Sim, I think, stunned themselves, or almost did. A relay bolt bounced off the wall and back in, so the Odin here. Koala was able to claim the kill, but a Proto, always good for a couple with that Sheriff. It's not a round that TSM have any business winning. I'm going to be honest with you. Now it's a 1 versus 2. The Thrash here is a problem, but Net is able to clear it before it comes in. He cannot complete the defuse, though. And Gimon a 7. Can play off. Gimon smoke. They can't be walking into his crosshair like that. Net just cleans them up. It was a pretty low health Gimon, if I'm not mistaken. But getting away with that with 4 HP is ridiculous. Zippo clutch for Net.
They are rolling with it. Even in a 1v whatever, right? Like 1v1, 1v2. M80 still continue to run with the punches. Interesting choice for an Odin. It worked in the end. I think M80 are at this point just pulling out all the stops to enjoy themselves, have some fun. It is 8-1 at this point, so proven difficulty being a Proto, just kind of getting that 2K, playing with those 1v1s, in a save round. But is that really what has to work, right? Winning out your fights, which yes, but new strategies definitely needed for TSM.
Wallamu playing over at A, still with that Odin Gompers. I think BCJ threw a Horn in there, maybe just to try and set them up, but there's not much info that the Sage can play off of over there to get value out of the Odin. It's an interesting choice in the round like this. There is a crap ton of defensive util over on C here. 2 Sonic sensors, Cam, Tripwire put down, Cyber Cage now being deployed. Wingman spotter running on him. Sim also gets tagged as he moves on onto this C site. M80 at least playing inside the Cypher. You'll note that they're anchoring. They don't want to play for retaking this top position because they can't flash themselves in. But Gimon is ready. Sees Nismo coming out of Waterfall. And now grouped up in halls, we have 2 for M80 and BCJ and Koala have to go through this together. The Odin is an awkward weapon to make this work with, but Gimon is still gunned down by it. And that does have a neural theft here. It's going to be a little bit awkward as the fight gets close here. He's able to use it, reveal Sim, but before that ping goes off, Sim makes the swing and brings Net down. A Proto, beautiful stuff. Another multi-kill round for him, and TSM get their second.
done and dusted. Second round, finally, into the hands of TSM. This is where they really do need to continue. I mean, this is a huge turning point for them, right? Giving themselves a little bit more leeway into, okay, how do we want to finish this round? How do we want to finish this half? Because, you know, give another 2 more back over to M80, they could pretty much just roll with it. Again, composition, very, very hard to get by. So I think they're doing a great job, though. They're reading into, you know, what they can do to contradict what M80 are wanting to play with, which is very aggressive gameplay. Sim playing into that duelist role, even heavier than before, because, again, that's what you need to do for this team.
So TSM do make a pop over under the A side. They use Dizzy, they use the fault line as well. And a Proto gets one for free. Nismo has to contact Peak for some info out of B. We've seen this tendency from M80 on the last few rounds, and finally, a Proto was in position to punish it. Now onto the site they come, TSM. Sim just wants to check tree here. Net's already made his way into drop. And the plat will go down.
That retake's going to be very, very solid, especially with that resurrection coming through. They're running it down. They're just looking for, like, any sort of possible way in.
Double swing here. Dimon gets caught out. This is the only way M80 can really retake any of the map, but Poised shuts this one down before it really gets started. Net and Koala still can buy in the next round. It'll be a little bit awkward economically for M80 overall, especially without them taking any further weapons away from TSM. Allowing them to get 3 attacking rounds here.
Last round.
I think if you have a triple Sentinel composition, you can't allow TSM any more than 3.
Thank you.
That pretty much has to be done with. Especially now, I mean, they did load up some ults to make it easier on them. Nismo is going to be able to clock someone with that. I feel like that's like definitely the way for this team to... I maybe just have that plan B if something really does go wrong. It seems like the C site very popular in the hands of TSM, and 3 players there, so they're ready for it if you're an 80.
Playing for Mount this time are M80, but it's the same Disky thrown out by TSM, one that they've always sort of respected potential defensive push-up on this part of the map. Tyler catches on the wall in here. Annihilation going to be thrown out. I think Sim is caught inside that cocoon, and there's a smoke in the way. There's nothing that TSM can do because they're not here. They're going to lose Sim for free, essentially, now. Try and reciprocate and hit this A site hard. That wall is not going to stop them here, but I'll tell you what, the slow orb will.
Now they just wait here. No wall available for Koala Noob. So all that's left is to play with that one trip that Net has settled down. The V site. That main point of interest there for TSM. Just actually creating a distraction. So they're not even looking to kind of move forward there.
And it actually dragged the 2 players away from tree side, or on the stair side of the map here. The TSM are going to only have 2 players of M80 here. They've managed to clear them out now, and it's going to be a pretty late rotation coming in. See them here, and this one's going to get the drop, but a Proto was there first. Beautiful stuff from a Pro. The guy is very sharp today. And a good fake on towards B. Prevented M80 from playing with 4 on that defense.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. They played that very, very well. They baited out tons and tons of util. They tried to gather a rotation, settled in C and B by directing some attention there with the util. And now they're thinking smarter, right? They're thinking more in the way of, okay, well, we don't have to win every single fight. We just have to know how we're going to get ourselves onto site, get that plant down, and create that pressure. So I think there was a good guess, but is it too late? 8-4, M80. Lack of duelists, though. So, I mean, how is that going to work out is the question.
Yeah. So the way it works out is that they do have the ability to play off their neon util, their fade util at the start of these rounds. And that's something that M80 do have. After that, though, they have to use their smokes to break up the map and try and get, out trade or get 2v1s or anything like that. So the Omen util is going to be super important for this composition. But if they get onto a site for free, if they make the right choice, it's so hard to retake against this triple Sentinel setup. For now, though, don't worry about any of that. It's just good old honest VALORANT as we go to work with the pistols, and Sim comes out with 4.
Sim is finally in their element. It just took a while. It really did just take a while. The duelists finally being able to frag out and taking in a very, very solid pistol round that TSM needed, right? Not giving M80 that lead to give themselves that confidence moving forward, and now kind of breaking that down for them. So TSM huge redemption, in my opinion. I think this is where that turnaround really could happen.
There's an outlaw for Koala Noob.
Yeah.
On the second round of the half. Okay. So again, you can get caught in a lot of this util but beautiful stuff. Koala Noob catches Sim, one of the less armored players on the side of TSM. Yimono holds his ground here at Rubble. He knows that obviously there's better weaponry here for the defenders, and this is a pretty hard spot to push him off of because of the lack of util that M80 have to take space with.
So solid, too. Just waiting so far up. Playing the same game that M80 were throwing back at them on the defense, but this time, yeah, they don't have 3 Sentinels, but they got a Proto, and he's waiting for you. He's got Cam set up. Mentioned now, finally, yeah, being able to make that happen. That's great.
They throw a Prowler out there, so that will at least get the attention of the player towards Waterfall. But Poi steps up. He says, okay, my camera is have a Vandal. They are not armored. I'm going to spray them down. So how much more is this going to happen? M80 just trying to bounce to sites and find one that isn't stacked with defenders or defensive util. They're going to try now to ping back over towards A here, and Seven's about to have his hands very, very full. There's one. Koala Noob taken out instantly. Dizzy to follow up here to try and wrap around, and yeah, it's going to be absolute carnage because none of these guys have flashes. They cannot force him off that angle, and Seven played that beautifully.
This is where they're thinking in their heads, man, this triple Sentinel composition really was not the plan. But
it's good, but you have to, I think you need more than 8 defensive rounds, crazy as that sounds. And also, like, winning the pistol is pretty important here because you definitely want a weaponry advantage because you are just trying to take a lot of raw duels. So if you are starting these rounds with, like, you know, pistols or like weaker weaponry, like, it's very hard for your comp to actually get to that post-plan phase of the round that you're so strong in.
It's also, I guess, more like just again so defense oriented. Like you said, if you don't get more than 8, you're just already in such a bad spot.
It's crazy we're saying that on Lotus, right? I know it's not a defense side of the map typically, but this is where we run into issues. Like, again, we are just walking around corners. TSM have given up a fair bit of the map here though, which favors M80. I think they really invested heavily in like that mound presence. No one from NA has really gone to test that part of the map. They're just going to insert Xander here by the looks of things to try and draw people over to this A side.
Yeah, noise already made over towards A, so they do lure out a smoke from GMD or Gumond. 7 having to watch this alongside, but yep, already working out that first pick into the hands of TSM.
Nice shot there. I think that was a body shot on Koala Noob. They've gone quite low as a result. 7 caught inside a grab net here, but still. M80 not really in a position to properly test this side. Up on the wall is Koala Noob, but Yvonne is wise to this. He's absolutely expecting this player to walk up, and there it is. Koala Noob goes down. Now M80 playing with 3. And they're realizing now with 20 seconds left in the round, their options are pretty limited. So much so that a save might be on the table.
Yeah, farm for an orb, but that's not going to be enough to
10 seconds left.
Really win the round. Saving up instead, knowing that it might just be game over. That wall there, it's typical, I guess, Sage on top of the wall play from Koala Noob. Not expecting someone else to see it, but I guess more so looking for, you know, over the head information. It sucks. Just the way that things really do crumble down for the side of M80. If they do continue to farm orbs, I mean, they could get something early on, but in terms of winning their fights, it's really not working out that way. They just keep getting pummeled down by TSM in these early rounds.
Yeah, and again, they're not far enough ahead to just, you know, rest all their bets on a like ult heavy round where they just win on sheer weight of ultimates. I don't mind this. Like, you'll notice that M80 are trying to insert people at either side of the map, right? At the start of the round, they leave Xander by door and have him like open it up because, you know, they're hoping that he can find something. Koala Noob doing the same because that wall is, you know, it's ostensibly designed to let you push into that seaside and plant, but, you know, Gimon knows better. He checks the top of the wall. He knows Koala Noob was probably waiting there. And this is all these little tricks that M80 are forced to have to do because they don't have a great way to, like, have a strong site exec. At least, you know, in a few rounds' time, they can hit a site with, like, a potential Annihilation and, like, a Nightfall setup. So that gives them some options there. But generally, like, right now they're playing on hard mode. And if they keep walking into these operator lines, these scope weapon lines, that's where M80's comp is weakest. They really are very susceptible to like an operator player at like, you know, A long or C looking towards Mount, as we saw in that previous round with the Outlaw.
Yeah, time for opportunity, though. Big aggressive take up on A. For TSM, just looking for early info, and this is going to be huge, too. Already tons of noise heard. Big early info moving out towards A, so they know this push is coming down C.
Slow warp, though. Does prevent M80 from hitting this one hard and fast. They're going to go for it. They realize at this point, like, you have to just take these fights, so they do. Dana comes up with the jackpot early on here. And the wall is thrown up. That looks like a barrier towards the back of C to make that retake via Halls much harder. But Sim has already snuck onto the other side of it. See a couple heads here, is able to bring Nismo down. There's still no plant quite yet, but Sim has to duck his head. Some of the shots came in from Xander. Again, tries to get up onto the side itself. There's no need for this for TSM. They can wait. There's no plant yet. And we have a bounce off to the B side for M80, and TSM are only playing with 2 defenders now.
Such odd placement for that barrier coming through from Nismo, but they do recollect themselves going over towards B. Is this the play, though? 7 does have that crash. So readily available. Yep, and is going to be able to use it. Trying to shoot it down doesn't work out, though. Now everybody else just on the extremities of the site.
There's a flank, though. Yeah, great backstab timing here, and Koala Noob is also still playing it up. There's really nowhere that 7 can go. He was going to get caught either way. Pincered in 3 different directions, and M80 get a round win there. And I think they bait an overcommitment out from TSM on that C site.
It's the way that things got to work for them, though. They don't have a duelist, so there needs to be some sort of initiation to get them through. Again, like you said, too, like lack of flashes. How are we going to make this work? And it really is just pedal to the metal, firepower, moving past that smoke, and really just facing your fears. Because other than that, like, there really is nothing to throw down other than maybe a possible slow orb. Okay, let's condition them into this corner. BCJ, give us something. Like, it really is not much other than winning your fights and isolating that. But up top, GMP.
Nicely one out there by Xander. I think again, early on in the round, those grab nets can be pretty effective. And oh no, boys! Yep, that is a pretty fantastic use there of that annihilation. And there was nothing that could be done. 7 to try and break that cocoon. He would expose himself to multiple players playing towards A long. And this is what I mean about a site execute behind that deadlock ultimate. Nismo eventually goes down, but has more than done his job. Now it's down to Sim and a Proto. Again, having to retake here in a 2v4 with an operator is a tall order.
Keeping the silence in the game. Sim is just waiting for somebody to peek aggressively, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, play off the horns, I suppose, allows them to pick up a Proto. Sim here with the operator has to run. He has to hold on to this now, as 63 HP is really not enough for them to feel confident attempting that retake. Not with this weapon, not today. And M80 get it done again. This time, they do fight for rubble. There's a lot of action that happens there early on in the round, and they brave a lot of that sort of trap play usual from the defenders.
Ended things off. And now they're back, baby. M80.
Yes.
All they needed was I'm not going to say a bit of patience, but a little bit more belief in themselves that they can do it with that lack of duelist. They can push past everything else. I think it was huge too, obviously, for BCJ and Nismo to kind of work in cohesion there, you know, utilizing both their util. Nismo propping the ultimate to get a free one, honestly. But yeah, I mean, now with that being said, Koala Noob ready with a resurrection and a possible pick off C. So many players already up.
I like this. The defenders have a ton of util to make these little trap plays happen at the start of the round, but the grab net might have made this a problem. Sims are able to find one. Humon also falls down here as TSM push out into that extremity. It's really a Proto that might have saved him here.
Last player standing.
Nice little sheriff pick off. Poised also good for one, makes it a 1 versus 1. Again, there's a tripwire over at A, which is very convenient for a Proto. And that might give him some info if Xander doesn't opt to go through door here. This one has to be cleared. And in fact, Xander just runs into it now. And so a Proto knows he's picked the right side. He can cover a weapon, Gompers. Still only a sheriff to his name, which might be even more scary, to be fair.
I don't know. We've seen a Proto hit some nasty shots on the sheriff. Could this be another one? No, peekaboo.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Xander is that guy. Very, very smart. Again, so running headlong into that trip on such a big map, probably frustrating realizing he's given a Proto a ton of information, but in the clutch situations, there's not many players that you'd rather have on your team than Xander, and he plays that to perfection. What a weird little trap play. You can see just how far up the defenders actually had to push to try and make that happen.
All they're looking for is huge leeway in terms of just pushing past TSM. It's working out. Everything looking good. Winning out all of their fights by far, which now, I mean, they've resorted to just wall banging through with the Odin. Is it working? No, there's nobody there. But it's a good start.
All right, some Sonic sensors here. Nismo just figuring how to set that up. Actually can catch a defender out, but TSM are unlikely to offer up too much here. Much like we saw M80 do. They give up a lot of this A-long area and just play off a cam that will look interlinked right here.
Just watching. They have already some sort of info on C. They did see cam, so that could have misled them, poor TSM, into thinking, hey, maybe something else is going on. But no, yeah, ultimate already on its way down towards A, and the retake potential there.
Nismo knows there's a player up at the top. Here in upper also. One in drop for the time being. And a lot of that util coming out now. Slow orb is being sat on by TSM. He's still able to find a way to break through for the most part.
30 seconds left.
3 up still for M80. Still no spike plant, by the way. That one has been toppled over towards the tree. And Gimon walks straight into a Sonic sensor. Just the way M80 drew it up. Sim tries to slide on in, and M80 are ready for it. A situation that could have gone awfully wrong for the attackers here. They actually go for a full side exec behind that Nightfall. And it pays off.
That was a pretty huge explosion. I don't even know. Like, how do you react to that if you're TSM, other than just kind of working with the punches there? It was a huge external force of just using all the equipment that you have right in your arsenal, and then picking everybody off on the extremities after that, knowing that they're going to push for this retake, knowing that fast rotation's coming in. And it really is M80 just reading so well into TSM and what they want to do and what they're planning for. And it comes to the point of they're just so good at adapting. They're so good at understanding, you know, okay, what's the comp that we have? What can we play with here? And how is this going to work? And right there and then, right? You wouldn't think to use, like, Cypher Util is getting so creative, using that for the entry, giving yourself at least an inch of space to really lead some way there. So it's so nice the way they think.
This util is absolutely wild. There is so much going on here. But I think the issue here for TSM, I'm really glad. Shout out to the observers who've been able to capture how that round went, by the way. M80 got caught inside Relay Bowl and like a mosh pit. They could have been in a lot of trouble if TSM had been able to push up into them. But the slow orbs that Koala noobs threw over towards the back of site and to drop made it impossible for TSM to capitalize on any of that like retake util that they threw out. So M80 just gets stunned and knocked around a bunch, and then they're still like, okay, we're still ready to fight for this.
They've got it. They honestly, yeah, I think really at the end of the day, it is just kind of also being accustomed, I guess, to playing against TSM and then their playstyles. I'm just wondering, like, what was the consensus behind this comp? Like, that's all I really want to know, because it's so risky, but it's so interesting that they felt so comfortable to bring this out in a dire moment where, hey, we want to qualify. This is what we want to do.
BCJ is jump peeking the C site with an Odin. I'm not really sure what they're hoping for there.
I have the spike.
There's also a smoke thrown over towards Waterfall here by M80, so we may be looking just to contact behind this grab net. All right, we've seen that one before. See that little cheeky wall there that is going to cut off that link play through Waterfall. Cut off any rotators coming in from C, outside of them going back through halls, and I think they've just discovered that already on the site. They are, though. BCJ falls. And again, Baby Door is a problem. Poised able to explode through there behind that Rolling Thunder, but gets caught in an annihilation pretty much straight away. There's a wall over at upper, I think, that's going to make it hard for TSM to get back onto this site. Eventually they break it, but not before Poise gets drawn to his doom by the Deadlock ultimate.
Exactly.
Now in a 3v4. This neural theft is going to be big. Spike finally gets thrown down. Sim can be an impact player here. Out of Baby Door, especially to follow up on that detain. He gets brought down by Net. Crash did not find enough value, not enough purchase on this site, and eventually Gimont is brought down, and TSM have to give the map up. M80 with a wacky composition, this triple sentinel. They find success, especially in that latter half of their attacking side.
They were able to run through, despite obviously like being faced with some difficulties on the attack. So for M80, I mean, huge congratulations for that first map win. Second map, though, you talked about it, Icebox. It's concerning, and we're moving there. So, what are the chances? I'm so close. Hi, guys. How are you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to that Icebox because I think it's like a double controller, double initiator comp that M80 like to play on that map without the duels, which is obviously pretty sick. And I think the desk talked about it. We could expect to see like Sims Rainer or something similar. I'm pretty hyped for that one. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll start to get y'all ready for map number 2 and take a fun look back at Lotus.